Ja, velkommen alle sammen. Jeg hedder Anna Skyggebjerg, og jeg er viceinstitutleder for DPU, og jeg har fået æren af at byde jer alle sammen rigtig hjertelig velkommen til Dansk Filosofisk Selskabs årsmøde. Og jeg vil på DPU's og på hele AU's vegne sige, at vi er rigtig glade for at huse det her årsmøde om et så aktuelt tema, The Nature of Nature. Og man kan sige, at det er jo timely. Der er rigtig mange, der interesserer sig for bæredygtighed, økokritik og naturoplevelse, naturtematik i det hele taget. Herunder også mig selv. Jeg kommer fra litteratur og litteraturdidaktik, og jeg interesserer mig også for formationer af naturen i litteraturen. Så derfor havde jeg i forvejen tænkt mig at dukke op til de her åbne forelæsninger. Og jeg vil sige, at det synes jeg er rigtig godt set af arrangørerne her, at det er i alle DPU'ers interesse at komme og være med til selskabets årsmøde og til fællesforelæsningerne her. Det synes jeg er en meget, meget fin gestus, og jeg vil håbe, at rigtig mange andre selskaber, rigtig mange andre faglige miljøer på DPU også ville åbne sig for hinanden. Så altså tak for ganske forbilledlig adfærd her, og velkommen til et spændende årsmøde, en spændende konference, og velkommen til en spændende dag i dag, hvor DPU så kvitterer med en lille reception, når vi er færdige. Tak for det, og så giver jeg ordet til Asger Sørensen.
Ja, mange tak. Nu skal jeg tror, det kan jeg ikke gøre her. Jeg tror godt, jeg måske kan høres. Ja, mit navn er som sagt Asger Sørensen, og jeg er lektor i pædagogisk filosofi her på stedet. Men når jeg står her, så er det som formand for bestyrelsen for Dansk Filosofisk Selskab. Og nu har vi jo her på et dansk selskabs årsmøde, men vi har en del ikke dansktalende gæster, så jeg vil derfor straks skifte over til engelsk. So, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of all possible genders and sexes. My name is Asger Sørensen, and I stand here as the president of Danish Philosophical Society to welcome you to this special event. Besides being the president of the society, I'm also a member of the local faculty hosting this event. That is the Philosophy of Education unit at the School of Education where we are. So when I stand here, it is both as a guest and as a host. In fact, I also substitute for the head of our section, Jørgen Hugler, who could not be with us today, but he sent his greetings. Today's special event is the fruit of a joint venture between the Danish School of Education and the Danish Philosophical Society. As we have just heard, the school will serve a reception and have organized things, and we have been happy to invite lecturers to make this event happen. To those of you who have simply come here to listen to the two international lectures, you should know that this is actually only the introduction to a larger event, the annual meeting for the members of the Danish Philosophical Society. This meeting continues tomorrow and the day after tomorrow, that is Friday and Saturday, with 2 more keynote speakers and more than 80 presentations. The society meeting is hosted by the aforementioned Philosophy of Education unit here at Campus Emdrup and the Danish Association of Philosophy of Education. The association is responsible for many of the practical issues, for instance, the registration and the info table. So therefore, when I speak as president of the society, I would like to thank the school, the association, the section, and the unit for having the society here. And I also want to thank the Danish Union of Academics for their continued support of the societies for more than 10 years. So many of you present here most of you actually, I suspect, are fellow philosophers and member of the Philosophical Society. So all of you, we're happy that you have come here already Thursday, and we are looking forward to having you here at our campus the next 2 days. And we trust you. As you may have noticed, in the bag provided at the registration to the meeting, you are entrusted with tokens of past philosophical efforts in Denmark, that is, old volumes of Danish Yearbook of Philosophy. With these remains in your possession as a society, all of you, all of us, constitute a collective we-intentionality, a collective mind, an extended mind, a collective consciousness of Danish philosophy that will raise Danish philosophy, I hope, to unexpected levels. And if you want to follow this mystery road even further, that is, should you be curious about our common past, as members of the society, you have web access to all past volumes. That is 55 volumes back to 1964 at the web. So, I should say something a little bit practical, and then I'll say something about education, because you are in a special hall of education. But let me remember to say that all keynotes will speak from here, or will be on the screen. When we have dinner tomorrow night, it is not in this building, but across the road there. You should follow the stream, but it's just on the other side of Improby. Those are the practical things that I will tell you. I think the rest should be understandable. So, in all of my roles, allow me to say a few words regarding education. I know we are gathered here to give priority to the nature of nature, but I'll also invite you as fellow philosophers to consider the nature of education. The point is that we need you, all fellow philosophers, in philosophy of education. Education is, I think, in crisis, and as I see it, we, the philosophers within this field, have not been able to defend education sufficiently. So there's work to be done, philosophical work, critical as well as constructive. So we invite you into philosophy of education. Human being is alive, and that means always being in the state of becoming, always in the process of experiencing and interacting with both oneself and the rest of reality. All of these processes can be done with more or less care, more or less consideration, more or less deliberation. Deliberation can be more or less finely grained, depending on the available concepts and categories. And education is the process of making available still better concepts and categories, still richer vocabularies, where new distinctions are developed, enabling the recognition and creation of new patterns in reality. That's why education is recognized as liberating. That's why we talk about liberal education as opposed to mere vocational training. While liberal education aims to provide theoretical or broad knowledge about many aspects of reality that can be applied to a variety of purposes and professions, vocational training teaches students the precise skills and knowledge needed to carry out a specific craft, technical skills or trade within a certain field, such as plumbing or cooking. Education in the liberal sense means developing human being, realizing human potential. That is why education is at once liberation and control, as Herbert Marcuse argued decades ago. That's also why education, traditionally, has been restricted to the upper strata of society, being administered in careful doses to only those human beings that control other human beings, those human beings that have the privilege of decision-making. As Alistair McIntyre has stressed not so long ago, taking the right decisions on complicated issues requires the ability to take into consideration many different aspects of reality. That's why general education is considered important for good government. When citizens are involved in decision-making, as in republics and democracies, it's important that they also understand the challenges of deciding on complicated issues. Republics and democracies are known to take better decisions precisely because they experiment and discuss matters before deciding. Extending liberal education to citizens at large enhance this quality, being both a sign of egalitarianism and the will to take the best societal decisions. This is recognized by, among others, John Dewey and Emil Durkheim. Education also means refining the tasters to be able to enjoy the finest cultural products. As stressed by the young Karl Marx, communism means acquiring tasters for art. It means cultivating the ears to listen to fine music, the nose to appreciate still more refined odors, the palate to enjoy special tasters, the eyes to take pleasure in varied colors and proportions. However, developing the senses also requires understanding issues related to the objects experienced, knowing about materials, physics, chemistry, biology, understanding geometry and composition, being able to read notes, and recognize basic traits and elements that can be combined. Traditionally, education was therefore a core issue for philosophy. Think of Plato, Locke, Rousseau, Kant, Hegel. As history has developed, the global consensus on educating humanity must be considered one of the finest achievements of mankind. Therefore, it's alarming that today, in the richest and most advanced countries in the world, liberal education as such is no longer appreciated in the same degree as before. In the last decade, internationally, a particular discourse has become ever stronger, namely the discourse of over-education that denounces the desire for university education as educational snobbery. In Denmark, in 2015, the Minister of Education from the Liberal Party argued that it was the duty, that is, the duty of the Danish politicians to secure that Danes did not over-educate themselves. Since then, different Danish governments has consistently cut down on university higher education. The result being that future Danish citizens will have less access to liberal education, forcing an increasing majority to train their vocational skills to become electricians, plumbers, or carpenters, or nurses, primary school teachers, or pedagogues. So in one of the richest countries in the world, in one of the oldest functioning democracies, we have elected politicians and decision makers who see it as their duty to secure that coming generations will not get the educational possibilities that they themselves have benefited from. This hall is a special hall for Danish education. It has witnessed countless lectures and discussions about education for 75 years. In 1948, these buildings, built by the Germans during their occupation of Denmark, became the Danish High School for Teachers. That is an independent state institution where the country's primary school teachers could get further research-based education. This hall and this very, well, I'm a bit lost of English word here, but I think it's called a lectern, this place, this piece of furniture that I'm standing with here. But this lectern was the platform from which the distinguished Danish philosopher Knud Ejler Løgstrup in 1981 lectured on the purpose of the school. From this very place at the Danish High School, Løgstrup emphasized the importance of existential enlightenment for the Danish primary school. For him, education was not enough. Education he considered along vocational lines, that is, as a preparation for future work at the labor market. And as he argued, the school must be more than education in this limited sense. For Løgstrup, the school thus signifies freedom from toil, providing for everybody the existential enlightenment for life as such. The school is enlightening about human being and becoming, about society as such, about how we live by ourselves, with our bodies, and how we live with each other. It's about poetry and language. It's about history, culture, and religion. It's about leisure, pleasure, and sports. It's about science and knowledge, ethics, and politics. That's also why Løgstrup stressed that raising people to democracy is an important task for the school, even though it's not the ultimate purpose of the school. For Løgstrup, the school thus prepared people for the value of liberal education, although he did not employ that expression, speaking in Danish, of course. Today at this institution, now called the Danish School of Education, Aarhus University, the priorities have almost been inverted. A few years ago, our local manager, Claus Holm, stressed that the primary school should educate to the labor market, that education should be vocational training, and when it came to democracy, well, that was not the primary task anymore. Løgstrup was wrong, Holm said. And when addressing last autumn the master graduates from this very school of education, from this lectern, he told our master graduate that life and work are not in conflict, that the work competency acquired by higher education could also possibly serve as their life competency. For Holm, higher education is thus primarily vocational training that enhances the work capacity and hopefully also the capacity to live. This is the idea of education that the Danish society encounters when it looks for authoritative guidance from the management of the Danish School of Education. Of course, this ideology of education and the school has been criticized and discussed outside the School of Education as well as inside. One of the sharpest critics, Thomas Rømer, published last year a scholarly monograph with the same title as Løgstrup's classical lecture, The Purpose of the School, criticizing the local educational ideology. Unfortunately, Rømer was among those selected for dismissal before Christmas, and he will have to continue his critical work outside our school. This development in our little corner of the world reflects, I will claim, the international trend mentioned above to denounce liberal education. But how come that liberal education, and in particular postgraduate university education in the humanities, could fall in such disrepute? Well, I mean, that will be a long lecture, and I won't continue here. Here I will simply say we have to turn to criticism of culture and capitalism. We may point to the existence of ideology and false consciousness that makes us unable to believe in alternatives to the present order of the world. Ideology that conditions us to blame ourselves for faults inflicted to us by the cultural and social order. To counter such ideologies, we need knowledge and education. We always need to improve our technology, but the present crisis also demands developing our ability to take the right decisions. Therefore, we need more liberal education, I would say, more university education, more existential enlightenment, more philosophy. And that's why I want to invite all of you fellow philosophers into the philosophy of education. There is work to be done. So that is today's message. And with this, I will simply invite the first fellow philosopher of education, Malou Julskær, in to prepare the ground for the first keynote speaker, Karen Barat. Thank you very much.